I'm joined today once again by Dr. Paul Cameron. He is chairman of the Family Research Institute. To give everybody a brief reminder about Dr. Cameron, back in 1983, the American Psychological Association did expel Dr. Cameron for non-cooperation with an ethics investigation. Dr. Cameron has told us previously on the show that he chose to leave the APA, although the APA contends that he left after the investigation started, which is against their policies. Your latest statements, Dr. Cameron, are of approval of the Ugandan anti-gay laws, which prescribe life in prison for homosexuality, and you actually would even go further and believe that in some cases the death penalty for homosexuality would make sense. Dr. Cameron, give us a sense of how you came to this conclusion.
Right. First, one must understand that those who act on their homosexual desires or interests usually end up being parasites on society, and parasites that are very dangerous for society, not only because they take far more than they contribute to society, but they particularly injure children. And many societies have looked at the injury that homosexual molestation or rape does to children and have decreed the death penalty for such. I have no particular, nor my colleagues, any particular stance on this, except to say this is not an unreasonable thing, especially when you consider, as we are looking right now, at news reports all across the world regarding what those with homosexual interests have done to children. Some have molested, raped, however you wish to put it, 20 or more kids. I would say once you go beyond 2 or 3 or 4, that's pretty severe.
So let's take this step by step, Dr. Cameron, because you've already given us so much, and we do apologize for Dr. Cameron's audio. We're not sure where that noise is coming from, but we're unable to fix it. The first question I would have, I guess, is in terms of the Kinsey stuff, much of Kinsey's work has already been not so much discredited, but just found to have been not particularly accurate. So tell me specifically, what evidence do you have that gay men, it sounds like that's your focus, are pedophiles to a greater extent than the average man, adjusting for all other factors? Where do you get that idea?
Well, first, there are a number of things to consider. Take surveys by homosexuals themselves, gays themselves. Open gay and lesbian, the gay report done by Carla and what's his face. Anyway, both open gays reported that about a quarter of gays admitted to having sex with children under the age of 16, and that somewhere in the vicinity of a quarter to a third registered approval of such sexual activity. The Kinsey Institute in 1970, Bell and Weinberg, did a survey in San Francisco of gays. Almost all their interviewers were gays, and they came with a similar figure, about 23%.
So I'm curious, Dr. Cameron, it's strange to me that these gays, which you say are pedophiles and parasites, and you've equated homosexuality to drug usage, you trust their own studies? It seems a little hypocritical. Why would you trust these same parasites that you so vehemently criticize? You find them trustworthy at the same time?
One can be honest in regard to what one collects, and at the same time be a parasite. My goodness, there are all kinds of people who have a parasitical relation to society, and some of them are incarcerated. That doesn't mean we say, well, because you're a crook, we're not going to believe you at all.
Okay, so you and I have talked about this many times.
Representative sides with theirs.
I don't want to get bogged down in this because you and I have discussed this before. This is exactly what you got kicked out of the APA for, which is misrepresenting people's research. So I really want to focus on the death penalty, if I may. The death penalty is the big thing because that's really what we want to talk. We won't agree on the studies, so let's focus on the death penalty, which is a little new. How would you propose logistically implementing the death penalty for homosexuality? In other words, Is it if you are caught on video engaged in certain acts? Is it if there is a report of such engagement? What is the method of applying the death penalty? Is it lethal injection? How do you set it up logistically, Dr. Cameron?
Well, first of all, I'm not advocating the death penalty. I'm saying I'm open to it depending on what the legislature of a given country decides.
But I'm asking your
Now,
opinion. If they did, how would you do it?
With the diplomatic corps of Uganda
Right.
a few years ago, and I shared with them some of the very information that you don't want to credit. They apparently thought it was credible. They thought the threat was great, and other people contributed. The President of the United States has weighed in. Many other folk all over the world have weighed in.
Yeah.
And the legislature and the President of Uganda have looked at the evidence, and they have enacted a law, which I think is a reasonable response to what is obviously a threat.
But Dr. Cameron, why is it? I've asked the people from the Westboro Baptist Church. I've asked others who are open to the idea of a homosexual death penalty. I've now asked you, how do you implement it logistically? And nobody wants to answer it. I think it would be incredible if you were just able to give us a very simple explanation. How does the death penalty for being gay work?
There is no death penalty for being gay. In no country in the world do I know of anyone who says, because you have these interests, you will be executed.
But but Dr. Cameron, that's not the question I asked. Dr. Cameron, I'm asking
No, we're going to imprison, and others in other parts of the world right now, they get away scot-free.
Forget for a second, Dr. Cameron, anybody who is in the field of mental health and is at all reputable does not conflate being in an adult gay relationship with being a pedophile. They are not equivalent in any way. So my question to you is, what if you were to implement the death penalty, if you were, for an adult in a consensual relationship with another adult of the same gender, how do you implement that death penalty if it's up to Dr. Cameron?
Well, it isn't, and I'm not going to speculate on something. I'm saying that in current situation in Uganda, you'll notice that the law specifies 14 years of imprisonment if it's aggravated homosexual activity. You have HIV, you know it, and you chance your partner getting HIV. That to me is a reasonable penalty.
Well, but there are laws. But Dr. Cameron, there are laws. There are laws all over the world, irregardless of whether it is a gay or straight sexual encounter, where the deliberate transmission of HIV is punishable. You don't need to go from that to what Uganda is doing or to the death penalty. In all of these discussions I have with you, you conflate issues that are really unrelated.
Now, I would suggest that what you're trying to do is separate out aspects of normal homosexual activity and pretend that they don't exist. For instance, if a quarter of gays admit to having sex with children,
oh, come on.
If a third of gays admit to fancying it or approving it, then by George, the odds are good that around a third of them have done it, and even more approve of it. If you go to countries right now where we have pretty well open homosexuality, where boys are now pleasure and women are only breeders, such as Afghanistan and Pakistan.
Well, it's not. We're seeing that there are absolutely no negative side effects. If we look at Massachusetts, the first state to legalize same-sex marriage, there has been same-sex adoption for a long time. Absolutely no negative repercussions whatsoever. Dr. Cameron, I wanted to ask you about...
How would you account for the fact that well over 500,000 gays have infected each other? I haven't done it. They have infected each other with HIV. And the latest CDC figures suggest the figure may be closer to 700,000. No one knows for dead sure. But what we do know is every infection on average costs us, the taxpayer, and society, $700,000.
Hey, do you know how much the Dr. Cameron, this is a silly argument. Do you know the socialized costs of people smoking? Should we put smokers in jail as well? This is a ridiculous argument.
Oh, I don't think it's ridiculous at all. Unfortunately, for our society, for the West as a whole, homosexuality is on the grow. And when you reward someone for being parasitical in their sexual activities, you'll get more of it. And of course, the costs will grow exponentially.
Of course, homosexuality is not on the grow. There's no evidence there are more gay people today than at any other time, but we do have a societal situation which makes gay and lesbian and bisexual people far more comfortable being out. So we're just not going to agree on the facts as usual, but Dr. Paul Cameron is always an interesting guest, chairman of the Family Research Institute. I don't think anyone on the show is surprised that you were involved and chatted with lots of Ugandan elected officials. Dr. Cameron, always great to have you on.
All right. Well, thank you. All the best.